So typically the two most used ways are what we call a brownfield and a greenfield migration, but there is something in between called bluefield, and then you've got this landscape transformation where you're probably merging multiple systems together. But brownfield basically is where I've got my existing ECC6 system and I'm going to do basically a technical upgrade to S4HANA. So what you've then got is you've got basically exactly the same functionality as you did in ECC6, but now in S4HANA and on the HANA database. So typically what you've done with the brownfield migration is not really extended all the functionality of S4. With greenfield, then you're really not taking any of that data over from your existing ECC6 system, and what you're doing is you're doing a re-implementation. So you're doing a new configuration. It's almost like doing a new ERP system all over again. Okay, but here you would leave the old data back in the ECC6 system, and you need to do something about that. With a bluefield, it's somewhere in between, where what you're doing is you're moving selective data over to S4, but not all the data, and you're changing the config. And then with the transformation, what we're typically doing here is merging a number of SAP systems together, typically with different charts of accounts, different sales organizations, and we're moving them into one S4 system. So a much more different migration than either the blue, the brown, or the green. But really, one of the things that people talk about is, how do I prepare a business case? You know, HANA is very expensive in terms of if you go to a hyperscaler or even having on-premise HANA. And really, if you're doing a brownfield migration, the best business case you can get is to reduce that footprint and to try to reduce that as small as possible, and then basically archive the data out of your ECC6 system, do your brownfield migration, and then reattach your archive, and you can still read all of that data from your old ECC6 system, but now in your new shiny S4HANA system. If it's greenfield, then typically what you don't want to be running is a new S4HANA system and the old legacy ECC6 system. So again, one of the things that you can do here is that you can actually decommission that old ECC6 system, turn it off, but still look at the data and report on that data. And then the other two, the bluefield and the transformation, are slightly different, but again, bluefield typically reduce the size of your data. With the transformation, it could be reduce the size of your data or decommission some data. And that's typically for your ECC6 system going to S4, but then lots of people talk about BW, your business warehouse, going to either BW for HANA or BW on HANA. And again, BW systems can be very big. And typically there, what we're implementing, what we call nearline storage, that's been around for a number of years now in SAP, where I can move a certain amount of my data, whether it be info cubes or DSO data, into something like SAP IQ, where I haven't got that data in memory. I've got it in what I call nearline storage, where I can bring that data back and still facilitate my query in BW, but I'm just moving some of the data which is maybe old and not always accessed into nearline storage. So this is an example of a customer that we did back in 2020. The customer is Croda. They're a large international chemical company, and they were going to Azure. Didn't have very much longer time to go to Azure. We got them about 3 to 4 months before they went. Their database was 3.4 terabytes, and that costs a lot of money in a hyperscaler. And basically they wanted to reduce it. And literally we reduced them to just on half a terabyte in less than 12 weeks. Paul, who's the group operations director, always says that the ROI on this was below 2 years. In actual fact, it was below a year. So the actual cost of the what we use a product from SAP called SAP ILM, Information Lifecycle Management, and our services, that saving was huge, and he's got a very quick saving there. And again, we have many customers like this where they have gone to a hyperscaler and all of a sudden realized the costs are quite dramatic and increase month by month.